Mr. Michael Linde hails from a small village in the east of Germany called Ermsleben. He produces short documentaries from German TV, from Kuala Lumpur, Southeast Asia, and has also established his own company and network called Creativer Club Kuala Lumpur. It's a hybrid of an early stage startup company in media production and also a community of local content creators in Malaysia. Now that you have heard about our speaker, and without further ado, let's welcome Mr. Michael. Mr. Michael, the floor is now yours.
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, let me share my screen, my presentation. Give me 1 second. Here we are. So good that you had your intro. I also had an intro. Just once again, I guess everyone can see it now. Should be there. So yeah, once again, thank you very much. First of all, everyone joining this session here. I'm feeling very honored to represent my German culture here with you guys, and also a big thank you to Sunway International Business Society for inviting me. I'm very, very happy to be here, yeah. And with not talking too much, let's go through the table of content. So also heads up at the beginning, you can see like we're gonna start just with a quick introduction. I mean, already the introduction for me, doing it very quickly again for myself, and then we are ready to say Willkommen in Deutschland, which means welcome in Germany, more or less. So this is going to be like a big cultural part where we're going to talk about different things about culture, some just interesting facts about Germany, also about the food, of course, and later on also a little bit about the language. But since it is very, very complex language, I don't want to dive too deep, like what is grammar and so on. So I'm just going to provide you like, yeah, a little bit of the basic information about the German language and a few phrases that you maybe can use when you travel to Germany, or maybe it also can, yeah, catch your interest in learning German, because it is, like I said, very, very complex. But maybe some of you are interested in learning it later. And then, because I mean, this is like the business society of Sunway, so I also want to talk a little bit about business with you guys, especially like in the German culture, what maybe could be helpful if you're going to maybe study abroad in Germany, if you're going to decide later you're going to do an internship in Germany, or you're even like applying for jobs in Germany. And also, one more thing, listen, or for the one that listen really, really good, we later have a quiz, and the best three, or the three winners, I'm also going to have a prize for you. So later we're going to settle this, and maybe you can drop me a message once we have like the winners. But so it is worth it to listen really, really carefully. So there's like a prize for you, and then we do a Q&A session. So, I mean, later, yeah. Like I said, you guys who did it already, just doing it really, really quickly again. So I was born in East Germany, my small village, very, very well pronounced. It is called Ermsleben. So I'm a, like you say, like in Malaysia, like I'm a kampung boy, like 2,000 people living there. I actually wrote here, my hometown is Magdeburg. It's like the biggest city in our area, and also the capital of my state, Saxony-Anhalt. But yeah, since 2014, I'm actually more or less living abroad. So 2014 until 2016, it was like half of the year abroad, half of the year still living in Magdeburg. That was also the city where I studied. And that was also the very first time when I actually visited Malaysia. During my studies, I did an internship here in Kuala Lumpur. And yeah, something happened during these 3 months. I really, really fell in love with Malaysia. And yeah, 4 years later, like you can also see it then after some more internships in Canada, also in Vietnam, and then working like 2 years in China, I finally, in 2018, I made it back to Malaysia. Yeah, it was something special. I don't know, I really, really like this place here. One thing is definitely the weather. I mean, you guys know it, in Germany, we also have like really quite bad weather, especially like in autumn and in winter. It can be very, very cold. So I definitely prefer hot, rainy, even if it rains, I don't actually mind. And as long as the weather is hot, Malaysia was the choice for me. And just like 2 more facts about me. Yeah, so I'm working here, still working like full-time for a German production company. So we're doing like documentaries from Southeast Asia for the German TV. So everything we produce is basically in German language. We have to write like German storyboards and so on, even though we are filming it here. So the job was actually really, really interesting this 2 years because I'm also a cameraman myself. So I do camera, editing, everything, producer. But it was a lot of traveling actually around Southeast Asia. And yeah, I don't have to tell you what happened then. Early in 2020, COVID hit the world. So since then, it's like working from home. So work also changed, but at the same point, that was also a good opportunity for me because like before that, most of the times I was half of the year also in Malaysia, half of the year traveling around Southeast Asia, shooting like these documentaries. But since I also hooked up here with local freelance videographers, photographers, content creators in general, we started like a little network, and over the 2 years now, it more or less become also a little small startup company, still not full-time, but step by step. So this is also very well pronounced, by the way, Kreativer Club. So it's actually the German name for creative club. And yeah, that's my little company. If you want to find out more, there's also the IG. If you're maybe also interested in photography, videography, or content creator yourself, just go there. But now willkommen in Deutschland. The coat of arms is the Bundesadler, which is like the eagle soul of the nation. You can translate it to English like that. And what sometimes German people get offended about when we're talking about the German flag is that it is, of course, black, red, but it is not yellow, it is gold. So, you know, like gold also describes that it is something very rare. I don't know if any other countries actually have like gold in their flag, but yeah, please don't make the mistake if you want to show your knowledge about the German culture, German flag. The flag is definitely not yellow. The last color, the bottom color, it is actually gold. And some more quick facts. I mean, maybe some of you already know it, but we have a population of 83 million people in Germany, and our capital is the beautiful Berlin. It is also actually the biggest city in Germany. It has a big history, and I would say if you look around the world, I mean, the population of Berlin is actually quite small if you compare it like to other big metropolis around the world. It's like around 3.3 million people. But the thing is with Berlin, it's very, very unique city, very alternative, young, new city. I mean, it has this old historic core, an old town, but in some way it's a very vibrant city. And then we have actually a new chancellor since last year, September, because I know that like a lot of foreigners, they always assume like still Angela Merkel. She's our Mutti, like we always called her, like Mama. But it is actually after 16 years, last year in September, she's not running the country anymore. She's running for the chancellor. Now we have like the opposition this year over, and the new chancellor is now Olaf Scholz. I didn't put a picture in of him because I think it was not worth it for the moment because he's very new and Angela Merkel is still like in the heart of most of the Germans. And then maybe about just the size, which actually I find it quite interesting because also even if you just compare, almost it's a little bit bigger than Malaysia. But if you look at the numbers, it is actually not that much bigger than Malaysia. And if you look at also at the list of the Germany's biggest countries all over the world, we are both like in the 60s. We are really, really close. I think Germany is 62, 63, Malaysia is 69 or 68 something. Of course, I mean, a lot of Malaysia is also like because of East Malaysia, of Sabah and Sarawak. If you just compare like the peninsula to Germany, then it would be very, very small. But the whole size of Malaysia is almost actually the same. And because even though we are like not like a super huge country, we still have, like, I would say, quite some interesting landscapes. So in the north, we still have like the coastline, and we have like sea. There's also a lot of fishing actually going on in the north of Germany, which is also like a big business for container ships also. And Hamburg, if you heard about like the third biggest city in Germany, it's also like in the north. And it's actually, I think, the second biggest port in Europe. And because of that, also one of the main players of the ports in the whole world. In the east, where I am from, we have like a lot of forest, hilly area, hilly landscape. This is like one of the most famous areas. It's Saxony, Swiss. In German, it's called Sächsische Schweiz. It's like the one-to-one translation, basically, to English. But yeah, very, very historic, old, area, region. In the west looks the complete opposite. It is basically the industry is based there, like a lot of big companies, and there was earlier not so much anymore, because of course in the whole world there's a change about green energy and so on. But like the west was very well known for as a mining area in Germany, like in the after the Second World War until actually the 90s, 2000, early 2000s. So from the landscape, not so beautiful, but that's where they make the money, or they made the money, not so much there anymore now. And in the south, of course, everyone knows the Alps. So huge mountains, as you can see from the north, from the sea, to in the east, like some nice forest areas, to the south, to the mountains. And I also noticed, like, it's actually also in Malaysia, a lot of people know Frankfurt, even though Frankfurt is just like, I think, the fifth or sixth biggest city in Germany. But it is also like very, very central in Germany. And the main thing is it has the biggest airport in Germany, actually. Which also means, like, me, for myself, even when I also always traveled, like from Malaysia or from KL to Germany, usually I traveled to Frankfurt because there were like some direct flights. Now, of course, also because of COVID, everything changed. There are I don't think actually any direct flights anymore, unfortunately. So sometimes I'm also going over Berlin, but then you have to take a stop. But Frankfurt, really well-known city still, because it is actually the only city that has like skyscrapers. But you cannot compare it like to, for an example, like to KL or other Asian cities where there are like a lot of skyscrapers. But for Germans, this is like very, very special, because in general, even like huge cities like Berlin, Munich, Hamburg, Cologne, they are pretty flat. Like houses there, even like office buildings have maybe like 5 stories, but that's all. So if you want like a little bit of skyline, crazy skyline, skyscraper feeling, then Frankfurt is your city in Germany. And of course, we also have like some really famous, well-known landmarks. I guess this one everyone knows. It's the Brandenburg Gate, or like we say in German, Brandenburger Tor, which is, of course, located in the capital in Berlin. Some of you maybe might seen this. It's also quite often a location for filming movies, and like, yeah, I would say in Europe, one of the most beautiful castles in general. Schwanstein Castle in Bavaria in the south. I've actually never been there myself. This is sometimes thing, you have like really nice landmarks in your country, but you're not visiting them. But it is definitely, if you visit Germany, it's a must go. Very beautiful. I mentioned Cologne earlier. They are really well known for the cathedral. It's been there for centuries, long history. And this one is actually from my area in Leipzig. So this city, Leipzig, I don't know. Some of you maybe who are interested in football recently, more people hear about Leipzig. Very beautiful city, especially also for students. Students may be interesting because it is a very vibrant student city, and it's actually the monument to the Battle of the Nations. So this is like in the references of the First and Second World War. And then last but not least, of course, the Berlin Wall. I mean, I actually had first like some slides also about the history of Germany, but I then rather skip this and talk more about like the language later. But I mean, as maybe some people know and maybe also listen now for the quiz later, Germany was reunited in 1989. But yeah, it was like more than 30 years. Yeah, it was like divided into two countries, into West Germany after the Second World War. So in the 50s, they built like literally this physical wall around the east side of Germany. So just a quick detour to the history. So after the Second World War, Germany was split up in West Germany and East Germany. So West Germany more or less like influenced by the Americans, Britain and the French, who won the war, and East Germany was influenced by the Soviet Union. So even though it was like called German Democratic Republic, the DDR was still more or less like influenced by the communism from the Soviet Union. So they built like this wall, and like people like my parents, my grandparents, after the Second World War, they could never go out there. Like they literally shot people to death. If you wanted to climb this wall, if you wanted to cross over to West Germany, there were like everywhere sharpshooters, there were like guards. There was no questioning, there was no warning. If you climbed this wall, they shot you. So it was like it's actually like a very, very historic place. And some of these parts of the wall, they are still in Berlin, and even like in some cities like that were like on the border line, you can still find this wall. So if you are interested in the history of Germany, you should definitely visit the Berlin Wall. And after some history now, maybe some more interesting and fun facts, and especially this the first one. I think for students it's a great thing. I mean, I was a student myself in Germany, but because this is so normal for us, we actually don't really realize that. But university is free. Like it is actually a really, really good thing in the German politics, that they always say like education should be free. So you should not pay for education, even though it is like a higher level of education. And it's even like for non-Germans, so for foreigners, you can be from anywhere around the world. If you get like accepted by the university, it is for free. You still have to pay like a little fee, which is not related to the university. It depends always on the city. So to give you like an example, I studied, like I earlier showed you, like in Magdeburg, and I had to pay per semester, converted into ringgit. It was roughly between 400 to 450 ringgit. And it was called like semester ticket, but this is something you have to buy every semester, but it is for the transportation actually. It is not for the university that you can access your classes or whatever, or you have access to library, whatever. It is just for the transportation. Even if you don't use it, you have to buy it. But like, I mean, for most students, they're going to use it because it's anyway the cheapest way to travel. And like, considering the living costs and expenses in Germany, if you pay like 400 to 450 ringgit for a ticket that you can use bus, subway, and what else do we have? Like we have a metro, which is something similar to a subway. So you can use this for free this whole semester, 24/7. So I think that's actually a good thing. And if you ever consider maybe studying abroad, because I know a lot of Malaysians, they also always go to Australia, to the US or to UK. If you don't look for like Stanford or other fancy universities, maybe considering like a German university, because you can also save a lot of money actually. And as you saw before with the landscape, it's also a beautiful country. Okay, moving on to the next one is Germany's like showed you earlier with the 83 million people. It's one of the most densely populated countries in the world, actually. I know that also, I saw it here in the list that there's someone from Vietnam joining. My friends from Vietnam, where I also was before. Compared to Vietnam, Vietnam is even more populated, densely populated than Germany. But yeah, for the size, it is actually quite a lot. And because like it's still so small, and Europe in general, I mean, if you always look at the world map, Europe is actually quite small, but we share like the border with 9 countries. So Denmark in the north, Poland and Czech Republic in the east, Austria and Switzerland in the south, and then on the west, in the west, we have France, Belgium, Luxembourg, and the interesting part is, except from Austria and Switzerland in the south, where they also speak German, all other countries, so all the other 7 nations, they all speak different languages, more or less. I mean, France and Belgium is also they mostly speak also French in Belgium and Luxembourg, but anyway, there's like a lot of languages also around Germany. So all these small countries actually have their own languages, which is actually, I think, really interesting when you look to Europe. But it's also a little bit the same like in Southeast Asia. I mean, you guys also, all countries have more or less their own languages. But for example, South America, most of the nations except from Brazil, they all speak Spanish. Yeah. This one is not such an interesting fact, but I wanted to mention it for you because, like, I mean, we having this talk here in a business society, so maybe some of you guys want to work later in Germany, or you're interested in maybe doing internships in Germany, or even like here in Malaysia. I mean, these companies that you see are also our core companies, but they are all over the world. We also have them here in Malaysia, especially like Mercedes and BMW. They are the biggest car sellers in the world, like with other big brands. But this is like an industry that is very steady. It's been going on for a decade. It's been growing, and even now with e-cars and so on. And we have like new car brands like Tesla, or in China, NIO, that are like very, very green. These companies, they also have already their hybrid cars. They're also developing like e-cars. And they're going to be there for forever. And they have like this high status. So maybe for you, if you're into business and you may be looking for German companies later to apply, to try your luck to work, I would definitely recommend like apply for some of the German car brands. But beside the business things, maybe 3 other things that are very, very funny, I think. We are very, very proud about this, the Germans. I don't know why it's such a big thing for us, but like the first book ever in the world was printed in Germany. Because before that, it was always like handwritten. All the books, they always had to be handwritten. Imagine that, like they did copies with handwritten, and like we developed actually the mechanical process to print letters actually. And this is how they also first printed the book. Very, very, like in history classes, this is such a big thing in Germany. So every German remembers that. Another thing, if you guys ever watch like Inglourious Basterds, there's a very, very well-known scene where they're going to shoot each other later. But this is very typical German. I mean, we're talking about the German culture here. We show our one like this. Of course, it is also like a thumbs up. If I agree, I also show you this, but if we count, this is 1, this is 2, 3, 4, 5. So like the typical, I mean, of course, it always looks cooler. Now I'm also doing it because I live like abroad. Sometimes I still do it like this, but usually you have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But Germans, this is 1, this is 2. And last but not least, we are very, very proud also of, about our toilet paper in Germany. It is very, very soft, and yeah, it has the consistency of like paper towels basically, and it's really, really true. And me, myself, I traveled a lot, especially around Asia, and like, of course, like some of you also know, in China, some areas, they just have squat toilets, and then they also have like very, very bad toilet paper, or not even like, some of them don't even have like toilet paper, just have the bum, the water bum. But German people struggle with toilet paper abroad. I really have to say, it is something. Some people, it is a funny thing, when they travel, they even take like 1 or 2 rolls of toilet paper with them if they just go abroad for a week, because we need our soft toilet paper. Yes. And some cultural misunderstandings. I mean, I also discovered that a lot because like I'm actually not from Bavaria, I'm from the East. But of course, the Oktoberfest is well known all over the world. I mean, within the last decade, I feel like every country is celebrating now the Oktoberfest because it's a nice drinking fest. It's cool. The dressing looks cool and so on. And they're always connected to Germany. Of course, it is a German event, but this culture that we are celebrating there is not really like German, you know. This is like a very Bavarian thing. Bavaria is basically the biggest state in Germany, so they also have a lot of influence, of course, in the whole German culture, but it is not exceptionally like very German. So you cannot, like, in people in my area in the north or in the west, no one ever walks around like in Leder, in the or drink like all the time like beer from the big 1 liter mugs. Another interesting thing is like also because it is like called Oktoberfest, what people also often don't know, it actually starts in September. It starts always in the last week of September, and it goes then for 2 weeks, and it ends by the end of the first week of October. But it actually starts in September. I don't know why they call it Oktoberfest, but yeah. Then some other things you should avoid if you're going to Germany, or in general, if you speak like also to Germans abroad here. I mean, of course, everyone knows about the history of Germany. I mean, we started like 2 world wars and did so much pain in the world and bad things. But it is very, very sensitive topic. So if you're talking to Germans and you're new to them, of course, if you're like close to them, whatever, you can do whatever you want. But like if you meet someone new, you should try to avoid like Hitler jokes, anything that is like related to the Nazis or to the Third Reich. This is not something we find funny, because like even Germans, they hate this. They hate this, that this happened in our country, you know, like there were a lot of people, they were just like following because they had to, and yeah, otherwise they would have been killed themselves. So this is definitely not something we are proud, so we should also not make really jokes about it. And another thing is also the Germans that you meet maybe here in Malaysia, or meet in around Southeast Asia, or all over the world, that are actually not really, that are not really like in Germany. I wouldn't say we are typical Germans. And like also for me now, I changed a lot. Like in the last 7 years living abroad, I would say I'm not like a typical German anymore. Of course, I still have my German roots and this German behavior in a lot of things. But for an example, I mean, we are in Malaysia, you guys know it. I lost completely the sense of punctuality, which is like a very, very important thing in Germany. You cannot believe how important punctuality is. I'm also going to talk about this later again when we talk about business, but please keep it in mind, punctuality. Me, myself, Malaysia, you did really bad to me. I'm not punctual anymore. But if you're in Germany, you should definitely be on time. And yeah, in general, our English, that's what we always say. That's what we make our own joke. Our English is not the yellow from the egg. That's what Germans always say, which means das Gelbe vom Ei. So means basically our English is not the egg yolk, you know, because I don't know why. This is like a saying in Germany, an idiom. Don't ask me where it comes from. But for us Germans, the egg yolk is the best thing of the egg. So, but because our language, our English is not the best, that's why we say our English is not the yellow from the egg. You hear a lot of Germans maybe saying this if you ask them how their English is. So it is not like really like a widely spoken language. I mean, it's a generation thing, and it comes also back to the history again. Even myself, like I went to the elementary school in the 90s, like then secondary school early 2000s. But I actually started learning English in grade 5 until grade 10. So in the early years, you never actually, or like me, I never had like any connection to English, not learning any English. And even then, if you graduate from school, you also never use English again. All movies in Germany are dubbed in German. We don't even, the normal German actually doesn't watch. I mean, there's an option to, but if you watch like movies, we don't watch it in native language like English and then putting on subtitles. That's not a thing to do in Germany. Everything is dubbed, everything is in German. Signs in the streets, like everywhere, you don't really find much English. When you go now to the big cities, it changed a little bit over the last 10 years, I would say. Also because the refugees were coming like to Germany, and we have now like a huge population also of foreigners in Germany. But yeah, older generations, my parents, they never learned English in school. also back to the history, because we were like occupied or like influenced by the Russian Soviet Union. They had to learn actually Russian in school. Even when I went to school, I had the option to learn Russian. It was the time when it changed. Younger generations now, I would say everyone who was born like in the early 2000s, so the ones that are like the Gen Z now, they can speak proper English, but don't expect like from older generations, if you talk to them, that they can give you like proper answers in English. Another thing is, which a lot of people always say about us, and I agree actually with it, we are definitely not funny. We are very serious people. I mean, yeah, you cannot have like a really fun time or like joking around with Germans. Of course, there are always like exceptions, but even myself, I also wouldn't consider myself like a funny person. We are definitely not funny. But therefore, another thing is, and sometimes it can be a problem here in Asia, what I experienced, we are very honest and straightforward. So if I don't like something, or if there's something wrong, or you're doing something wrong to me, I'm not agreeing with you, I'm definitely going to say that straightforward to you. And I'm not doing like, oh, maybe, or trying to please you, or trying to find like a nice way to tell you. But it's not personal. It's not like that, like, if I say something straightforward to you, honest, that doesn't mean like I hate you or I don't like you. It's just like, it's like our behavior. We're just going to say it like it is. And I actually just said like 2 weeks ago, it was like a funny example. One of my friends, he's a local here, he called me. I was like doing some jalan in Chinatown, and he called me and he asked me, "Yo, Michael, I'm having a barbecue here. Do you want to come over now? Can I have some lunch here and then some drinks later?" And I said, "No problem. I don't want to come now." And that's it. So with 5 seconds, I said, "No, I don't want to come," and that's it. And then he said, he was laughing, and he said, "That's what I like about the Germans. If I would have this conversation now with a Malaysian or an other Asian here," he said, like, it's going to be like 1 minute. Maybe, what's the time now? I have to change, have to go back. Maybe I can come later. But in the end, you just don't want to say no. So like very low. I love it. You're straightforward. You're just telling me what it is. And last thing, which is also very, very typical German, we always want to be effective. We hate it when we are not. We said effective. I think this is also why we still have like this high standard in Germany. Made in Germany is still like in some way quality, and like the products are like have high quality. I would say we're really, really effective. Everything we are doing has to be effective, and therefore also like quite hardworking, I would say. If we're going to start work, we're going to sit here the whole day, we do our work, and there's no like around or something. Let's talk about food. I mean, food is always like a very, very interesting thing about cultures. Me, myself, I have to say, I'm actually not such a foodie, even though I have to say Malaysia turned me a little bit into a foodie, but I'm not going crazy about food. It's something you need to survive. But if I have good food, so don't get me wrong, if I have good food, and in Malaysia you have so many nice dishes. I mean, it's also because of the cultural variety of the culture here. But it's nice. I love it. Good food, but it's not like that I especially travel to a place just to eat there. But Germans, we definitely love our bratwurst. I mean, the sausages, everyone knows that, I guess. We have over like 1,000 kinds actually of sausages in Germany. If you think about it, it's actually crazy. It's just good the sausage, but we have like 1,000 different kinds of it. And of course, the sauerkraut, which you see like in the right bottom right here of the slide. That's also sometimes why they call us krauts. And I just also experienced that myself again last weekend. I went with my friends to a German restaurant, and we had we even had like a shared pan, of course, with sausages, with some pork knuckle, and with some various kind of krauts. And I figured out I was the only one that was actually really eating the kraut. So something as it is, I also cannot explain you exactly what it is, but we definitely love kraut. It's our favorite vegetable, because in general, we don't eat so much vegetable. Another great thing to eat, and especially as a student, it was my I literally survive from it. I ate it maybe 2 or 3 times a week, definitely. It's the döner in the right top corner here. It is actually, it has like Turkish roots, but now after the last 20 years now, it's so crazy. Like Germans are crazy over döner, and especially because it is so cheap. Like if you go like to a proper German restaurant, it is ridiculously expensive if you compare it like here to Malaysia. I mean, here the food is so cheap, and especially if you eat like local food, it is crazy. In Germany, if you want like even like in a normal regular restaurant that is not really fancy, you pay like converted like maybe 100 ringgit. If you, for example, have here the sausage with the sauerkraut, it's like easily 100 ringgit in Germany. And the döner is the best thing. It's meat is in there, vegetables, like the kraut is in there, some kind of bread. Germans also love bread, and it's a big meal, and it's just around like 20 ringgit. Perfect for students. You can survive the day with it. I loved it, and many other Germans also. It's like our, I would say, favorite fast food in some way. I would say like Germans eat more döner than like McDonald's hamburger or something like this. And of course, we also have the potato. Germans loves potato. Everything has to be, every dish has to be in some way with a potato. Most of the times we actually eat like boiled potatoes, but then there's also like mashed potatoes. Sometimes they even grill them, so they fry also the potatoes. There are various kinds, of course, also fries. So in some way, I would say it's the equivalent like what you have here with your rice. Every dish also in some way can come with rice, and I would say that's the same in Germany with potato. Just quickly, some other famous foods here in the left top corner. That's like actually the Spätzle, but it is very well known, but most of the people in the north and the east, they don't eat it. It's more like a dish that they eat in South Germany, especially in Southwest Germany. Then we have the Schnitzel. We are still fighting with the Austrians who invented the Schnitzel, who invented the first Schnitzel. Was it like the Austrians, the Germans? It's been an ongoing fight for many years. But yeah, and another good fast food, what we also really like, very cheap, good thing for students, not really healthy, but it is the so-called currywurst. So it's like curry sausage. Of course, comes with French fries. But this is basically, even though it says like curry, it is not like the curry in Asia. You cannot compare it. It is basically just like flooded, like banjia in tomato ketchup, and then they put like some curry powder over it. But it's not like the real curry, the Indian curry or the curry that you get here in Malaysia, so in Asia in general. And like you can see, if you look at the last 2 slides, in general, our food is very fatty, unhealthy, less vegetables, more meat. Especially we love pork. That's also, if you look at the German population and if you look like at the typical German, I mean, so far I'm still good, and because I'm also eating now healthy Asian food here. But Germans are big, like especially the older you get, like we have a lot of fat people, to be honest. Men, women, very big actually. Then also one of the reasons is because we drink actually a lot of beer. It works with everything. So it's definitely one of our favorite drinks. In Bavaria, it's even considered like an official food, but I would also not say, I mean, with beer, there's also always this assumption that like, oh, I'm gonna get drunk or whatever. It is not like that, like we are all the time drunk or whatever. So for the dinner, you like to drink like a beer, but then that's it. Like, it's not like, oh, I have to drink now 5 beers every night. It is, you eat your dinner, your sausage, you drink 1 beer, that's it. But if you want to go for the non-alcoholic, what also Germans really like is sparkling water. And I find this very interesting. What I realized also the first time when I went abroad from Germany, that it's actually not such a common thing, because yeah, you don't think outside of the box when you're just always getting served the same drinks. And it's the same with Zilter, how we also call it. So it's sparkling water. Usually Germans don't drink plain water. I cannot understand it anymore because now I also just always drink plain water, and I don't even miss sparkling water. I actually don't like it, but you don't ask this, you don't question this, you just drink it, you know. Germans love sparkling water in some way. In the shops, they all sell this. And yeah, we call it Zelda because like one of the first brands that actually came up with the sparkling water is called, the brand name is actually Zelda. So a lot of people call it Zelda, even though it is just the brand name. Let's talk about some people and the culture quickly before we move over to the language then. So actually 2/3 of the population are officially Christians, but the reality is like no one really practices. I would say maybe I'm doing a miscalculation, but from the people I know, maybe 5 to 10 go to church on Sunday. They really believe in Jesus. They have the Bible. They're reading the Bible. So it is actually, yeah, it is something written in on your documents or whatever, on your birth certificate or whatever, but practicing it, not really. Then 1 out of 10 Germans, nowadays they have like also foreign roots. The biggest foreign race are actually Turkish. A lot of them, I mean, they've been coming into Germany now for the past 50, 60, 70 years. They started like in the 50s. So that's also the connection back to the döner that we had earlier now with the food. And in general, the populations, I like it because like, especially in my area, we also have like a lot of like racist Germans in my area, which is not really, really cool. But if you go now to the big cities and also the younger the generations are, the more they are getting mixed, which is a very, very good thing, I think. And I like it actually that the cultures are mixing now a lot in Germany, which is a good thing in our countries. I think it helps, definitely helps in all terms. And yeah, some of the most well-known authors are Schiller and Goethe. I don't know, in Europe, everyone knows them actually. I don't know actually how it is actually. Sorry, I don't know how it is here in Asia. They are definitely in Europe, of course in Germany. The names Schiller and Goethe, and the composers are Bach, Wagner, and I guess every one of you at least heard this song once, Für Elisa, that's from Beethoven. This is the biggest. This is also the reason why Germany is actually called the land of the poets and thinkers, because like, yeah, we have like a big cultural history, like in well-known authors and composers, poets, and so on. But it still sticks, this name, land of poets and thinkers. I don't really think that it's really up to date, because I cannot remember any famous composer, even if you look into the film industry, so nowadays, which is basically what books were earlier, or even the music industry, there are not so many well-known Germans anymore. So this is just an old name, I would say. But yeah, if you hear it, that's what people say. And then let's move on. Ich liebe Deutsch means I love German. Let's get like, yeah, some basic knowledge, but like I said, I don't want to talk really or teach you. I don't really teach you like proper German like classes now, because like this is just an event, so you just should get an idea. I don't think it makes much sense if I'm going to teach you now subject, object, verb, where you put them, and so on. So let's talk about in general, of course, yeah, Germans speak German. I mentioned that also earlier. English in the big cities, you can survive with it, but if you go like to the Kampung areas, the villages, the small towns in Germany, you should definitely speak some German. But I have to say that, of course, all these facts I know, but this fact I didn't know actually. I found it during my research when I did like proofreading and checking everything. German is actually the most widely taught third language of the world. Me, myself, as a German, I was very, very surprised about this fact, because like, of course, English is the second, but then I thought like the third should gonna be like Spanish, Chinese, like Tamil, whatever, even French, because like South America is all speaking Spanish, except from Brazil, Portuguese, like even like Russian or whatever. But no, it is German. It is actually German. So it seems like it is very, very good to actually speak it. because also in Europe, I mean, that's also related because we alone in Germany, we have like a big population of over 80 million, but it remains the most native, the language with the most native speakers, because yes, like you can also see in the next bullet point, there's like in Switzerland, the majority of the people, they also speak German there, which is called then Switcher Deutsch. But actually in the south, some of them, they also speak like French or Italian. Austrians, they all speak German. So in combination with like Switzerland, Austria, Luxembourg is just a city, and Liechtenstein, very, very small country in between Switzerland and Austria. So with these countries together, we come over 100 million people speaking like German in Europe. And the grammar and the vocabulary is very, very common. This is the reason why I'm not teaching you too much about it. I mean, probably if you're interested in language and you heard about German, you know that we are crazy with our articles. So as in English, we also have definite and indefinite articles. But just look at this example here in the left top corner. So it's not only that we have like der, die, and das, which is like male, female, neutral. We also have like cases in German. So we have like 4 cases, which means like, it's like, just for your information, if there's like different objects in the sentence structure and so on. So that's how we're gonna change these cases. So then sometimes the end of the previous sentence or the actual sentence goes to the front and then it changes. So that's why we need cases in German. So, but with these cases, we also decided, hey, since we already have like 3 articles, why not also add like den, dem, and des? So we're having in total like 6 definite articles where you say in English all the time just the same. I mean, in BM, you also just have like E2 here. And in plural, it's going to also change, because then we first use like the female actually for all plural words in the first 2 cases. But if you have like these other 2 special, which is like called the third, dative and genitive, it's the 4th case, it's going to be den and der. Very, very confusing. It's the same with the indefinite articles. You have like ein and eine, so male and female again, like a. But these also going to have different endings depending on the case. So you know, maybe know, you maybe know now why I don't want to teach you any of that. You need like proper classes. It takes weeks to understand this. And nevertheless, since we already have like crazy articles, we also decided to publish the longest word ever in the history, which is like 79 letters long. And I'm trying to read it now for you in German, but I cannot even promise that like I'm going to stumble over it, okay? So I'm trying it slowly. The word is actually Donau-Dampfschifffahrts Elektrizitäten Hauptbetriebswerk Bau- und Beamtengesellschaft. It's a long word. So I'm trying it one more time really fast, but now I'm probably going to struggle. Donau-Dampfschifffahrt Elektrizitäten Hauptbetriebswerk Bau- und Beamtengesellschaft. So it's crazy, and it means in English, the Newbie Steamship Electricity Main Plant Construction Sub-Office Company. It is ridiculous. The thing in German is like, as long as it is a noun, as long as it is a noun, you can connect the words endless. You could basically, I mean, this is just the longest word that's ever been published, but like all nouns can be connected. So you can create endless words in Germany. And not only that, talking about the language in general, there are actually also, I mean, every country has it, but Germany also has a lot. We actually have like around 35 dialects wherever you are. So that's why we always say Deutsche Sprache, schwere Sprache, which means in English like German language, difficult language. because it's also like, yeah, no. So it means like German language contains like 8 times as many words as the English language. So we have like 8 times more words than like in the English vocabulary. It is just ridiculous. So if you really want to, that's what but in some way it's also the beauty. I had this conversation a long time ago, but like some speak in German, like I use words that there actually is not like sometimes not really a translation. Of course, there is a translation into English, but there's not like the same meaning, you know. They're like, I think there's probably also if you speak like Chinese or if you speak like BM here, there are also sometimes words in Chinese or in BM. I know that that's like, there's not like a literal translation to English. So we also have this in German, and we have this a lot actually. And because besides of that, like I also mentioned earlier, many dialects. So the words also sound really different. If you go to the north, it sounds completely different how the people speak in the north than in the south. Me, for myself, I'm from East Germany. I also sound very different, and I have a quite strong accent, I would say. So yeah, and sometimes it is even like that. If you go, like, for example, like I said, just we stick with Hamburg and Munich because they are like so far away from each other. But sometimes if you use like a word in Hamburg, it doesn't mean that it has the same meaning like when you use it like in Munich. It is pretty rare that something like this happens, but it can happen. So once again, deutsche Sprache, schwere Sprache. Another problem is also the pronunciation for a lot of foreigners that learn like German. And I mean, it's also what I always hear when I talk to people. They say like German sounds very aggressive always, you know, like when we speak German, it sounds like, you also know all these YouTube videos when they have probably all of you seen like this ambulance, and so on in Spanish, French, English. And then we have like the Krankenwagen, the literally translation like sick people car. So our language sounds pretty harsh and pretty hard. It's the same, I think we say like with Russian, but we are really proud about our R. So like, yeah, like rot, red, like we do it like rot. What else is like Räuber? I don't know. I don't have any examples now on the top of my head, but yeah, it's like always so. I think like especially for Asian languages, when you like native in Asian languages, it is quite hard to get like the. And we also have like some unique letters. 3 of them are the vowels with the dots, like we sometimes call them. Like it is the A with the dots, the O with the dots, and the U with the dots, which is pronounced in German E, Ö, Ü, which sounds very weird. So it's like E, Ö, Ü. But we use them actually in a lot of words. So they are quite common, I would say. And another one, which is also special letter, we call it like a buccal S. We call it like a booker S. This is the letter you can see here. It looks a little bit like a beta, but it's not like a beta. So there is like either you say like in German it's called Booker S, or we also call it SZ, which means like SZ. Don't ask me why they call it SZ, but that's the name for it. And since we also talked about already earlier here about all the articles, of course, not only the articles are male, female. There's been a big debate about this. It's coming up because like the world, the whole gender thing is a big topic in the world, and the German language is actually recently really masculine, I would say, like with the wordings. This is also a thing, like if you're going to learn German, you have to keep in mind that everything basically has a gender. So for an example, the pen is the pen in English. It's the book, the curtain, the poster, it's always the. But in Germany, like it is the pen is like der Stift. So it's like male, we use der. Like the teacher in this example, there is also der. So the teacher gets like a L article. But for example, the book is like neutral. Das Buch. The curtain is, for example, die is female, but there is no rule why an object is like male, female, or neutral. So basically, when you're learning like all the vocabulary in German, you also always have to learn basically the article. If it is male, female, or neutral, which is, I think it is quite hard. Of course, I'm lucky. I learned it when I was a baby. It's my mother tongue. But for a foreigner learning this is why it's like one of the biggest struggles. Like also when you even speak like to foreigners living like a long time in Germany, they still mix them up sometimes, which is okay. I mean, no one's gonna go crazy about this if you use the wrong article. But it is actually very, very difficult. And because it is not difficult enough, the Germans decided now that we add like this new thing, which you see like in the last line, innen. Because I said earlier, like for example, here with the teacher is always the teacher, the teacher, the teacher, no matter if it is male singular, female singular, or male plural, even if it's female, like earlier when it was like female plural. So you imagine like a group of 5 female teachers, they were still called die Lehrer, which is basically a male word, Lehrer, because there's no IN at the ending, like in the second line. So now they even have this debate, like in the politics, and they're talking about this to make this a rule that, I mean, it's mostly just for occupations or titles, that we always gonna add like this little star and then innen, which includes both male and female. So no one's gonna feel like, okay, we're not gonna include like female or whatever. This is a big debate. Myself, I'm okay with it. It's, I mean, gender is important to have like the same rights and all of this. But I'm also like a script writer. I'm writing text for TV. Sometimes we're doing also voiceovers, and German language is already like so complex. It makes it just more complex even for the natives. So recently, a lot of people struggle with it. Here, maybe this is now the class that I really have for you, the maybe 12 quick phrases for you in German. Just gonna go quickly because we're also already like talking a long time. So guten Tag means hello, also could be actually good day. Guten Morgen would be good morning. The goodbye, some people maybe heard it before, is auf Wiedersehen, which would be actually literally like see you again. For the normal goodbye, Germans say usually tschüss. This is not included here, but usually you just say like tschüss. Then we have the excuse me. It's entschuldigung. How are you? Wie geht es dir? The thank you is probably the easiest. Danke. Very important if you study abroad or if you have a job and you want to stay for a long time in Germany, maybe you have visa issues, you definitely should learn the phrase I love you, ich liebe dich. And please means bitte, but this is very, very often confusing for Germans because like I said, our English is not the yellow from the egg, and in German, bitte can be used for a question. Can you give this to me, please? So we would say like, can you give this to me, bitte? But we also say like, if you give me a present or whatever, like we don't say you're welcome, we also say bitte. So it happens sometimes when some Germans, they're not really good in English. So instead of saying like, you're welcome, so I'm giving you like a present or a gift, you say like, thank you. And then some Germans, they don't say like, you're welcome, they say, please. Because like our please is also the question from the please bitte. Confusing in German, just one example. I'm sorry is es tut mir leid. Nice to meet you. Schön dich zu treffen. Danke, mir geht es gut is fine. Thank you. It's actually the other way around. Thank you. You could also say like thank you, I'm fine. And last one is thank you very much. If you want to be really kind, you say like vielen Dank. So that was just the quick thing about the language. I'm going to come back to this now after these few slides here. I'm going to give you some more facts, but let's talk about business now, because I assume like some of you are maybe interested. Even like if you work, like, of course, you should really follow this if you go to Germany for an internship, for your first job or whatever, but you should also even consider this. Maybe you're going to apply here for BMW in Malaysia, in KL. We have like the Allianz insurance, it's also German. Bosch, a really, really big industry player. A lot of also German companies are here in Malaysia, which could be probably potential later. So even if you have there, like most the managers, they're also German, and if you have like a little bit of knowledge about the culture and how you should behave in the business, I think that could be helpful. So if you don't really can speak like proper good German, you should not even try it in business. Of course, if it is like casual, yes, of course, absolutely try to get better. But most of the people who are like in higher positions, they have like good educational level, they speak all proper English. You won't talk to the factory workers that have like a lower education, that maybe haven't learned English. If you are going to Germany, even like there in the offices, the positions, they all speak English. So just talk English to them. Because even like Germans, they struggle with business German. If you're not really like learning it, or you can not even speak proper German, even Germans struggle with it. Here, just for the business culture, one more time again, like punctuality is really, really important. It's the most important thing. Please remember this. It can save your day. Be punctual. If you have like a meeting, an interview, whatever it is, like especially if it's always the first time, being in time in Germany means being early. That means like at least 10 minutes, like 5 minutes, okay. Sometimes even if like the appointment is at 7 and you are there on a dot at 7, it's like already or almost already really, really close in time you made it. So being very, very early is the best. When I had my first job interviews, my first jobs, I always showed up 15 to 10 minutes earlier. Even the first half a year when I worked in Germany, you'd be there 10 minutes at least earlier before your work starts, whatever it is. Handshakes, we love handshakes. I mean, now in times of Corona, it's not very, very common, but like handshakes, a proper firm handshake. Germans, they love a firm handshake. It doesn't matter if it's male or female, also women, you give them a firm handshake, and eye contact is very important for us. Because it just shows like, okay, I'm comfortable with you. I don't have anything to hide. Like, okay, firm handshake, that's it. Hello, guten Tag, that's it. In general, I mean, this is not only, I would say, very typical German, but you should always respect, of course, the chain of command. So higher positions, you have to respect them, show them your respect. I think it's in every life situation. It's not only German. Take it in general, slow and steady, especially when you're working like for the first time at the place. Like I said, Germans are not funny. We are on the outside really cold. Once we get like warmed up with you, we can be also really, really pretty cool and chilled, open-minded. But at the beginning, it's always like a little bit, and it's slow and steady at the beginning. Fashion, yeah, it's also not super typical German, but it's everywhere in the business world nowadays. But I mean, you should not come with like shorts to the office or whatever. So, but also doesn't have to be too formal. Just whatever your position is. I mean, if you're like an intern for the HR or whatever, you don't have to wear like a suit every day and like a tie, just a shirt. That's all. So just dress accordingly, but not casual, I would say. Germans, they love their titles. So if there are a lot of people who are also in higher positions, even though they are not like even if it's like in the electro industry or whatever, sometimes they even have like special titles. So try to call them by their title. So it's always like, I also actually also noticed that in Asia, like for example, even like if you say like just Mr., you always say like Mr. For example, my name now, Mr. Michael, Miss Stephanie, Mr. John, Miss Amanda, whatever. So you always say like the first name, but in German it's actually that we use the second name. So in Germany, no one would call me Mr. Michael. If I would be now in a high position, they would call me Mr. Linde. So you always use like actually the last name. And maybe if I would be a doctor, you definitely say Dr. Linde. Professor Linde or whatever the title is. Just a sign of respect. And a thing I recognized also here, because like when I still worked like in the office here, in our office in Malaysia, we also had like local employees here. It's the working culture is a little bit different. So like here sometimes after lunch, 5 more minutes, can chill, a little bit of lepak, small talk. Hey, yesterday, what was going on? Yeah, so you cannot do this. Like there's a certain time for a lunch break. If you're back in the office, you're back to the computer or whatever your work task is, you're working. There's little to no small talk. Even like when you're working for like couple of months there already, it's very, very slow. So you maybe have like a little conversation with the colleague next to you. But as soon as there's also a manager, you definitely want to stop that. Like it's not, I don't know, we're not really easygoing with this thing. I like it also. I mean, I'm also open-minded about it, but like the typical German boss, your Lauban, they won't like it. Easygoing, small talk. And that's, we're finishing it up more or less now. So going back to the language, if you really want to learn more Deutsch and you are interested to learn all the stuff that I just introduced to you about the articles and many, many more things, I definitely can recommend to you like the Goethe Institute. I mean, it's an institution all over the world and they teach proper, really, really good German. We also have it here in Kuala Lumpur, and it is very, very good. So if you really take it serious to learn German, I would recommend to go to the Goethe Institute. Of course, it is not very cheap. I think like a A1 class there is, maybe I'm mistaken, but I think it is roughly around 2,500 to 3,000 ringgit, if I'm not wrong. But please check it out. I think they also have price lists on the web page there. But yeah, they have like certified teachers there, you know, they studied, these teachers, they've been going like also through all educational levels. So you get like proper German. More expensive version, but yeah, the best, I would say. If you don't have so much money, maybe you took for private tutors or online classes. One of them is just an example, Tutoro. I actually looked it up. We have like a few Germans here also in Kuala Lumpur. I mean, if you're from anywhere else, you should also just check your city. Or, I mean, nowadays it's also just online classes, so it doesn't matter actually where they are. They can be anywhere. You could even take them from Germany, basically. But we also have a few here in Kuala Lumpur. The thing with this is, like I just said about the Goethe Institute, they have like proper teachers. They have certified teachers, so you have to study. Here, private tutors, they're sometimes business owners. They are like working like for BMW here and they want like some side business. Some of them are even German students. So of course they can also teach you German, but if you really want to learn like a proper grammar and so on, maybe they don't have the knowledge as much as the proper teachers. And other than that, other ways could be Facebook, LinkedIn. I mean, in general, social media. I'm an old person now. I actually don't use Facebook, but I mean, there are like these expat groups, German groups, speaking groups. We also have a German speaking society here, which I'm also part of. We actually have a German speaking magazine here in Kuala Lumpur. If you're interested, you can also ask me more about it. But yeah, other ways you can also ask me. I also have some connections who maybe could.
We hope that all of you found this session informative, useful, and gained some knowledge about Germany.